What's up, duelists? 2 videos in one day? Wow, lucky you. Lucky you. You better subscribe, though. Seriously, subscribe. Okay, what is up with this deck list? I played it one-off game in a recent video, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, please play more of this deck. I really like it. So I got 3 more matches for you guys with this deck today. I actually really like this build. I honestly can't really think of much I want to change with it. Maybe some stuff out of the sideboard could be altered. I haven't played against fairies yet, which is the deck that I think this deck does pretty well against. But that's also the matchup where I think you need Royal Tribute. But I don't know. Deck dev is good. It covers it pretty much. Again, I'm pretty happy about this. I think there was one other change I wanted to make. Yeah, there was definitely one change. I wanted to add a 3rd Necro Valley to the sideboard. And you don't want to main it because it's not like insane in a lot of matchups, but some matchups you just like want to have the 3rd. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to do, was like have the 3rd in the sideboard somewhere. Anyway, basically this game isn't like the other Gravekeeper deck. The game plan is like slightly different. You don't try to slam Necro Valley on the field like immediately. You try to slam it like later in the game when your opponent's like down on cards and they're looking to their graveyard to get that last little bit of juice to win the game. So that's why we only have 2 copies of Necro Valley. You don't really want to break on it early, and you just kind of hold it a lot of the times in this type of build. Use the tomatoes to open, break through your opponent's stuff with Sangan, etc. Gravekeeper's Descendant, Gravekeeper's Guard, they're decent openers. And then you go for Necro Valley when your opponent is like lower on cards, once you've played through their Typhoon, their Raikos, etc. Anyway, let's go ahead and just get into the replays. I've explained this deck before. We just get into the replays. This is the first replay against Texas 365. I win the die roll, which is always a pleasure. I love winning the die roll. And as you can see, our opening hand is kind of sus, but it works, right? Rite of Spirit can maybe turn into a removal spell thanks to this Descendant. Mystic Tomato can make sure we stick in play. And then we got Bottomless to interrupt our opponent's play, so pretty decent. Set the Bottomless, set the Tomato, pass. Opponent goes draw. Space Typhoon, our back row. Normal Sirocco, Special Gale, makes Stardust. This is a very aggressive play. I don't know if it's the right play or the wrong play. Generally speaking, though, in this format, in the dark, don't summon Stardust here. Don't do it. And if anything, maybe even think about saving the Gale. And if anything, maybe even think about saving the Typhoon. I just don't see the point of making a Stardust this early. Against a lot of different things, you're just like really hoping it's Raiko, basically. If it is Raiko, then you get your +1, and that's good for you. But you've gone -1 to make the Stardust, so we're just net even. And I'm drawing to 5 cards, and you have a Stardust, which is obviously a good card. But yeah, if it's anything else, if it's DD Warrior Lady, if it's Spy, it's kind of bad. If it's Treeborn Frog, if it's Hamster, it's not that good for you. If it's Dandelion, it's not that good for you. If it's like Shining Angel, Mystic Tomato, Pyramid Turtle, Spirit Reaper, Goblin Zombie, Sangan, like literally any other monster in the format that gets set, it's not that good for you to make Stardust up front. There's another line you could also consider. If it is a Battle Recruiter, you could consider just like attacking it with Sirocco. And then main phase 2, you can like have whatever they search, make Dark End, blow it up if you need to. So there's that. I also think that that's a fine line too. I think going into Stardust is a huge gamble. You're taking maybe like a 15% chance that I set Raiko turn 1. And if I did, then that's great for you. But if I didn't, then it's bad for you. Anyway, tax a Tomato. We just grab Gale because Gale can deal with Stardust. Pretty much. That's how you do it. Gale's pretty good in this deck too. It lets you make Armor Master and Arcanite, both of which are fantastic cards in a lot of different meta matchups. We go for the Gale have the Stardust. I normal summon Descendant because I think it's pretty likely that they have a spot removal spell. And if they don't have a spot removal spell, then I do want to get my Descendant in the graveyard. So let's say it's specifically Mirror Force. Then getting my Descendant in the graveyard is actually pretty good because then I can normal summon Assailant, then Rite of Spirit back to Descendant in a later play, basically. It sets up my Rite of Spirit. So I'm cool with just doing this. And in order to play around a spot removal spell, I attack with just the Descendant. I don't Synchro first. You could Synchro first, but that defeats the purpose of going for the play around the spot removal spell, basically. They do have Book of Moon. They're able to use it on their Stardust to reset its stats. But this is okay. Now we have 6 cards to their 3. And we can make an Armor Master. We go down a card, which sucks, but Armor Master beats their guy that's in play. And then we have Rite of Spirit to beat whatever else later on. We just set 1 right because it's chainable. We don't need to set a 2nd right. Here they summon Armageddon Knight, and I'm like, okay, they can send Plague. They can stack for Plague. They can make Bryonic, bounce the Armor Master. We'll take 4,800, which is a ton. But then we can brain control Bionic and completely stabilize. So that's fine. Instead, they go for Armageddon Knight, send Vayu, meaning they have Plague in hand. At least that's what I'm thinking. So they have to have Plague in hand, otherwise they would have sent it, gone for the Bionic, tried to rid their rid us of the Armor Master, more or less. They go ahead and make an Armed Wing. I don't really know why they do this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Either they're trying to set up 3 bodies so they can have like a Plague play next turn, or they're trying to set up to have a Caius next turn. So now I'm like, okay, they have Plague in hand. They potentially have Caius in hand. They're just going to pass the turn. I have to clear all 3 monsters. Otherwise, I'm going to lose to those cards. So I go for Normal Summon Assailant, attack over Stardust, attack over Armageddon Knight. I clicked attack, but obviously he sent it before I clicked the attack. So yeah, it was a misclick there. Main phase 2, we write back the Descendant, sack the Assailant, pop the Armed Wing, set the other right. And now if he has Plague Caius, which is what we assume is in his hand, then he loses the game. Which is, as you can see, he does have the Plague in hand. Now he has the Necro Gardener, so yeah, that's why we clear all 3 monsters there. Anyway, he goes T-set, pass. I think there's a good chance that that's a Plague, so I just go for the Typhoon on the back row. And then he books a Descendant. It doesn't really matter, we can just flip it up. I'm going to go ahead and write back this. In case it's Raikou, because if it is Raikou, it is really annoying. I'm just going to do this. And our Rite of Spirit's not getting that much better. It ends up being Necro Gardener, so I know his last card is Plague. We attack for 4,000, and then we pass. So this is pretty good. Last card, Plague. They need to have something pretty good. Oh, after we set the guard, of course. We go ahead and guard the Plague here, force the Necro Gardener by attacking with everything. And then set Solemn Judgment. He does have 3 Darks in grave. He could end up finding Dark Arm Dragon off the top, but we have Solemn Judgment. And even if he has like Heavy Storm Dark Arm Dragon, then we have Brain Control. We can take the Dark Arm Dragon and just kill him with it. So yeah, that's going to be that. And that's kind of the way I like to play this deck, at least in game 1 when you don't have Necro Valley. You can use the Rite of Spirits as sort of like speed plays, speed pops, and then like Mystic Tomato helps you get into Gale or get into whatever you need in order to like hold your position basically a lot better. Okay, this hand is pretty good. We've got Necro Valley, we've got Gravekeeper's Guard and Spy, and then we got Solemn Judgment, which is like I said in the past video, it's the best card in this deck, is Solemn Judgment. Because when you have Solemn Judgment, then you can just commit your Necro Valley brainlessly, and your opponent can't really deal with it unless they have 2 outs, which is quite difficult for them to do. So they get to go first, which is pretty good. They banish Vayu, they T-set, and they pass the turn. Now we do get Dust Shooted. They did leave in Dust Shoot versus us. I respect it. I mean, our deck list is a little different. We got Rite of Spirits, we got Mystic Tomato, so I respect leaving in the Dust Shoot. Plus, we're not going to like super hard commit a bunch of back row going second anyway, so yeah, the Dust Shoot leaving it in on the play is okay. On the draw, I think it's much worse to leave it in, but it ends up working out pretty well for them. This Trap Dust Shoot is going to shut off our Gravekeeper still. Okay, so here's another thing that I want to talk about with this deck. Turns out the correct pronunciation of this card is Steely. But that is so fucking stupid. I am going to start a petition that we just start calling this card Stel. Because Steely sounds like... It sounds like I'm having an aneurysm. Stel makes sense. That's what we're going to call it from now on. We're changing history. Alright, we're rewriting it. This card is now pronounced Gravekeeper Stel. Alright, here we just set guard, set our stuff, activate our Necro Valley pass. I'm just like, alright, if it's Raikou, he flips Raikou, he pops our Necro Valley. That sucks, but we've got Solemn, we got Mirror Force, we got Guard. Maybe we Solemn the Raikou. Maybe we Solemn it to protect ourselves from flip Raikou into Caius. That could be pretty bad. But instead he just sets another monster and passes. So I'm like, okay, it's not Raikou, because he would have flipped Raikou for sure. We draw another Gravekeeper Stel. Remember, we're pronouncing it Stel now. You got to remember that. Which sucks, because we don't have another Gravekeeper dude, so we're like, alright, this kind of sucks. But we can bounce their other guy, the new guy, because that's more likely to be Raikou. If they had a Raikou, they would have flipped it last turn, for sure. And then we'll attack the old guy, because the old guy could be something like Plague or Necro. Turns out it's Mystic Tomato, which is actually fire tech. I actually kind of like Mystic Tomato in these decks. It allows you to go into Gale, allows you to go into Armageddon Knight, send Vayu. I think it's a pretty good card in these types of decks. And I think it's a pretty good like mix-up from the general formula, more or less. So running over Tomato here is actually pretty good for them. They can grab Gale, which can kill our guard. But instead they go Armageddon Knight, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And then they send Sirocco, which tells me that their hand has either their other Vayu in it, and Plague, and Necrogardener, or they just, you know, cited out all their shit. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's telling me that their hand has Plague, at the very least. Anyway, We just pass the turn. They have to sacrifice for another Sirocco. So they end up going -1 here, which kind of sucks for them. And then they special summon Dark Arm Dragon, but then they like think awkwardly. They know about Solemn. They know about Mirror Force. I'm obviously not going to Solemn this Dark Arm because like if they attack, I can just Mirror Force it. They can't activate the Dark Arm because Necro Valley prevents the Dark Arm's effect from being activated. So it's just a 2800 beater, which I can pretty easily deal with. If I draw Assailant, I draw Descendant, I have Mirror Force already that can deal with it. So it's just a vanilla. It doesn't really do anything. If anything, if I was the opponent, I would have waited on a lot of this stuff, but maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, sets back row, passes the turn. I'm like, all right, I pick up Torrential. That's pretty good. If he wants to commit further into this situation, like let's say with that Plague Spreader he has, then we can just Torrential. And if he has Solemn, we have Solemn for his Solemn. So we're big chilling. So we're going to set that Torrential and we're going to pass the turn after switching the guard to defense. Switching the guard to defense is important here. It's got 2400 defense. Sirocco can't attack over guard unless he pumps it up with a Vayu. But if he pumps it up with a Vayu, that means he has to summon a Vayu, which means we can Torrential. And then if he wants to attack over the guard with Dark Armed, then we get a Mirror Force to Dark Armed, which is it's a rare opportunity you get a Mirror Force to Dark Armed Dragon, so that's pretty good for us. They go ahead and summon that Plague that we did know about because they didn't send it off Armageddon, and we're just going to gun this Torrential because that's their normal summon. We don't really care about anything else that happens after this. They have no Vayu in the graveyard. They have no way to clear our Necro Valley. They have no way to interact with us, really, so we're just going to blow everything up. If we find another Gravekeeper, we can just willy-nilly slam it into the back row and then stell it back when we need to. We pick up Spy, which is perfect. It's literally the perfect monster here. Because not only is it a monster on its own, it can get us into another one to make our stell even better. So we set the Spy, we pass the turn. Opponent passes the turn again. We flip Spy. We get Oppressioned, but that's okay. So the reason he has Oppression in versus us is because we showed double Rite of Spirit and Gale last game. So that's why he has Repression in against us. But it's actually really good that he has Oppression in against us. And that's another thing about this deck is you can configure it post-board to like not be weak to Oppression at all outside of Spy. So like this is actually totally fine because now it forces the Royal Oppression to be face up. If he tries to do anything with his Plague, anything tricky like summon Sirocco, stack for Plague, try to Black Rose us, we can just Oppression the Black Rose. And we can just add back the Spy off the Stealth. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab Guard. I'm going to grab Spy. Now the reason I set the Spy here, even though Oppression is in play, is if he thinks that there's a guard set, he might summon something that like gives him value and then attack into the guard just to like force my guard effect, which I don't want to happen. So because he knows about the two monsters in our hand, I'm going to set the Spy because there is a chance he gets cheeky and tries to bait my guard activation and attacks into this. There's also a good chance I'm just not flipping the guard next turn anyway. So it's like still the same thing more or less. Anyway, he goes ahead and Rotas, which is fine. Like, Rhoda doesn't really get anything we care about here. It just grabs Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight's going to activate, send Necro Guard Knight, and just pass. We pick up Descendant, which is nice. We can summon that and just swing over the Armageddon Knight. Keep him without a monster in play so he can't Caius us. Pass the turn. Here comes Heavy Storm. We are forced to Solemn that, but now that Heavy Storm is gone, I don't think he can win. Like, legit, I don't think he can win because we have Compulsory, we have Mirror Force, which can break up just about anything. We have Necro Valley, which shuts off everything in the graveyard here except for the Plague, of course. And then we have Spy and Descendant to make sure that we can like pop stuff. And there's also Royal Oppression face up. So not only does he have to clear our 3 back row to even play the game, he has to clear his own back row to even play the game too. So it ends up being pretty bad for him. He does have Space Typhoon for Necro Valley, which is a start. But again, now that Heavy Storm is gone, I don't think he can actually win this game. And in my opinion, honestly, if I'm him, I'm thinking Space Typhoon Necro Valley first. If you Space Typhoon Necro Valley, you know about the Solemn Judgment and the Mirror Force from the Trap Dust Shoot on turn 1. So if you Space Typhoon the Necro Valley and I Solemn it, then you just play the Heavy Storm and you win, like immediately. So I think because of the way you want to sequence those cards, it's like one of the ways clears the Necro Valley, but you still have to play through 3 back row with like nothing. And then the other way, it potentially just like clears the Necro Valley regardless, and then you can save the Heavy Storm for later. If you can force the Solemn later, maybe you can use the Heavy Storm later. I think that that's just better. But if you MST and I Solemn the MST to protect the Necro Valley, then straight up you win the game immediately because you just Heavy Storm, and I have just a bunch of weak monsters, and you can like synchro with Plague and make a strong monster. So I think this sequencing actually probably costs the opponent this game, straight up. Anyway, they sack for Plague. Then Mark of the Rose, which is a cute tech with Mystic Tomato, Armageddon Knights, but I think it's pretty bad. While I do think Mystic Tomato is good, I think Mark of the Rose is bad tech. I think, if anything, you just play Mind Control because you have more access to tuners thanks to Mystic Tomato. So yeah, you just definitely play Mind Control over Mark of the Rose here. Mark of the Rose is cool, but yeah, I don't think it's as good as the Mystic Tomato. He double tributes for Gores to play around his own oppression instead of synchroing. He could attack here, but he knows about the Mirror Force. We have compulsory, so I'm like, whatever. We pick up Gravekeeper's Visionary, which is Peepo Pog. I go ahead and just set my guard and pass. The reason being is like I'm just going to flip guard next turn, bounce his Gores, and just crush him. Anyway, he sets a monster passes. In the case that that's Raikou, we got to do some tricksy stuff. We do find our second Necro Valley, which is nice, off the Commandant, and that also makes our Stel live too, which is awesome. We are going to be able to flip guard, bounce the set monster, Stel back the dudes, go ahead and Descendant, pop the Royal Oppression, flip the Spy, grab Assailant, pop the Gores, and then attack for 4,000. He's going to chain Necrogarna to the Descendant activation, so he's just going to take 2,000 here, but now we're just crushing. And throughout the course of the next few turns, I'm going to go out of my way to win with Gravekeeper's Visionary because I think that that's funny. So we don't Mirror Force here. We just sack for Gravekeeper's Visionary. Attack for 3,300 because he's massive. Opponent just sets a value, sets back or passes. We compulsory. We attack for 3,300 again. Books our dude, whatever. We're going to set guard, sets monster passes, flip, and then attack directly for game with Gravekeeper's Visionary, which is Peepo Pog. Next matches. So I played a game against the Macro Show. Friend of the channel, Macro Show, really cool dude. He's always working on this really sweet Mystic Tomato deck, but thankfully Necro Valley fucking destroys that deck, so here we are. Turn 1. Now we do have Necro Valley, we do have Bottomless, we do have Typhoon, but we're just going to set guard, set Mirror Force. The reason I want to do it this way is if they have Sirocco, I can just Mirror Force the Sirocco, and then guard can chill. The issue with this play, though, is that if they have Black Whirlwind, or if he has Black Whirlwind, or if he has something else, then it's pretty bad for us. So I probably should have set Bottomless instead of setting Mirror Force, and here's another reason why I should have set Bottomless. Next turn, I'm going to flip my guard, bounce their monster, normal summon my Commandant, activate Necro Valley, attack for 3,600, and I would much rather have Bottomless set there than Mirror Force, because I'm going to have to set the Bottomless as well, and that's going to get super blown out by Heavy Storm. So I should have thought one turn ahead here and set the Bottomless instead of the Mirror Force, but whatever, it doesn't end up mattering too much, I don't think. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. He sets a monster, and I'm like, shit, I should have set Bottomless. We pick up another Bottomless, which is fine. So we go ahead and bounce this dude. But I would much rather have Mirror Force in hand if I get Heavy Stormed than Bottomless in hand if I get Heavy Stormed. Anyway, we attack with both. If he has Gores, he has Tragodia. Similar, but we have Mirror Force for this. We would have ended up needing to set the Mirror Force anyway, so it's neither here nor there, but that's the way it worked out. It could have been a mistake had he not had this, and then, yeah, finds Heavy Storm. Anyway, he pitches a Goblin Zombie, which is what was set first turn, and then he switches the Tragodia to attack. Now, if you're the Macro Show, you don't need to switch the Tragodia here. I cannot kill this very easily. You should just attack me with the Commandant. The Commandant will run over the guard, either that or it will eat a back row, and that's a trade you're pretty happy with. If I have a Descendant, okay, I have a Descendant and I can pop the Tragodia. But at least you force me to play 2 cards out your board instead of just the 1 Mirror Force. There's no real reason to play in a Mirror Force here. You can just attack the guard with the Commandant and then leave your Tragodia in play. The Tragodia is going to crush me over time anyway, if it stays. He sets another monster and passes. We pick up our 1 Caius, which is always a good draw in this deck. Sack it for Caius, sack the guard for Caius, banish his Mystic Tomato, deal 1,000, attack for 24. This is a bit awkward into Gores, but I figured he didn't have it because he would have played it last turn. That was my reasoning. I go ahead and just set Typhoon and pass. I don't need to set double Bottomless. I think single is fine. He goes DDR, pitch DDR, and then we have Typhoon for that. He just sets a monster and passes. We pick up Deck Dev, which is very good. We're just attacking the set monster. He grabs Mizuki. We set Deck Dev and pass. Now, if he tries to like mess with my Caius in any way, like he has Dark Armed, well, if he has Dark Arm, we can just Bottomless. And if he has a way to like kill my Caius, I can chain Deck Dev, which is nice. Anyway, he bricked a little bit against Necro Valley, and Necro Valley does do a very good job against decks like zombies, against decks that are trying to banish stuff from the graveyard, or special summon stuff from the graveyard in order to get measurable advantage. So thankfully we were able to take game 1 there. It was a bit of a lucky hand that we had, I think, that he never found Heavy Storm, more or less. Because if he found Heavy Storm, I think at any point in that game we're probably just losing. Anyway, we're going second here. Our hand is full of monsters, but we boarded in our DD Warrior Lady, which is great in this matchup. He just draws a card, sets a monster, passes the turn. And then we DD Warrior Lady attack the monster, trade with the monster, pass the turn back. So the way we're going to sequence this hand is Gravekeeper's Assailant plus Necro Valley can turn into a kill big monster at any point. So I'm going to try to bait out a big monster to hit play and then use the Assailant plus the Necro Valley or use the Gale to kill it and reversal and then stabilize basically. So I want to use Sangan, I want to use Spy to sort of open up this position, take some of the cards away from him. And then later in the game, I'll go for Gale into Assailant plus Necro Valley as my last play. Anyway, he just does nothing and passes. I set Sangan because there's no reason to play into Gores just yet. Next turn we can summon Gale, we can attack into Gores, and then we can synchro into Goyo after having the Gores main too. We set Book of Moon here in case he wants to do something crazy, tricksy. He goes for Giant Trunade, activates DDR, pitches a card, brings back Mystic Tomato, synchros into Power Tool Dragon, which is actually pretty good here because it's going to allow him to search for another card. Now I like this move from him, sort of, but it spends a lot of cards. Giant Trunade is a -1, DDR is a -1, and then Gale and Tomato into Power Tool is just net neutral. So he's down a lot of cards here, and he searches for Mark of the Rose. If I was him, I would have tried to maybe search for another DDR, but that's just me. That's just because I have DD Warrior Ladies in and like all my stuff banishes, and the only way I'm really outing Power Tool anyway is like Caius or Banish or whatever. Anyway, Sangan dies. We get to search DD Warrior Lady. So yeah, I probably would have tried to search for another DDR, especially because like if I ever find Necro Valley, that Mark of the Rose is just a dead card anyway. So yeah. Here we have Gale. Gale can just have the Power Tool and run it over. And then we have Book of Moon to protect our Gale from being stolen by that Mark of the Rose that we do know about. Had we not drawn Book of Moon, or had we not Trunaded back the Book of Moon, basically, let's say our Book of Moon got destroyed by like a Space Typhoon or something, we would have gone for DD Warrior Lady instead here because we don't want to leave a body in play, especially a 3-star tuner, for him to steal with Mark of the Rose and then make a synchro and then crush us that way. So we would have led on DD Warrior Lady had that been the case. Anyway, we set the book, pass the turn. He goes for Space Typhoon. We chain the book. Again, we just got to protect our Gale from that Mark of the Rose. If he wants to run it over, that's fine too. Like if he has a Tomato to attack over it, that's chill. But like this is fine. We just set the Spy. We set the Bottomless and we pass. Again, you don't want to flip the Gale. You don't want to give him like that Mark of the Rose play that he's really looking for. So we just pass. He goes ahead and just passes. Here we can flip the Spy, grab Descendant, attack with both for 27. Again, don't need to commit the Necro Valley into Heavy Storm. We just don't. If he finds Heavy Storm, he's going to have to play it on the Bottomless and clear it anyway to even get something going. So we don't need to commit Necro Valley anyway because he can't even get going through Bottomless regardless. So yeah, we just attack both. Set Book of Moon to even further bait maybe a Heavy Storm off the top. And then later in the game, again, we can hold this Assailant plus Necro Valley for our last play, and that will be crushing. He goes Mark of the Rose, take the Descendant. We have Book of Moon for that. Our second book, very lucky top deck. But he also has Brain Control, so he's able to make a play. Brain's Spy, summons the play, goes for Goyo Guardian. But we have Bottomless for this. Like I said, in order to get anything going, he's going to need to play through the Bottomless. And then we can force this stuff. He has DDR, pitch Book of Life, bring back the Goyo, revealing that he just had the DDR all along, and that's probably why he didn't search for it off Power Tool. Goyo Guardian can attack over Gale, or it can attack over Descendant. If I'm him, it's tough to say. I'd probably attack over the Gale. Just because if I have a Gravekeeper, I can clear the Goyo Guardian. But if I have any monster, I can clear the Goyo Guardian with Gale. So it's like, either way you need me to not have a monster. It's probably better to take the Gale. So, yeah. Attacks over the Descendant instead. Takes the Descendant. Main phase 2, synchros with Plague into Brownic. If anything, I would have made Stardust here. But Stardust loses to the Gale that's in play. So, yeah, now he's draw locked, and we have Brain Control on Brownic, and that's just going to be that for the game. Anyway, here I offer him a replay, because I'm like, hey, you want to play again? Shit, let's show off our decks a little bit more, because this deck is sweet. I think this is a tight deck. It's very similar to the one that I played in a recent video with, like, Rescue Cat and shit. So, yeah, let's just check it out. I lose a die roll for match number 2 versus Macro, and my opening hand's actually kind of bad. I drew Rite of Spirit deck dev, but I didn't draw the right Gravekeeper, so I'm not going to be able to activate my deck dev. And then on top of that, he gets to lead with Twilight Rose Knight. And this is why I think Twilight Rose Knight is so broken, because if you have it going first, you just start Power Tool and it wins the game. Like, I can't do anything about this. I just lose, straight up. Power Tool grabs Mark of the Rose, and I was like, that's fucking crazy. Anyway, He says I had to try it, at least a 1-up. So he's got at least one Twilight Rose Knight in his deck. Potentially more. I don't know. He says at least a 1-up. So I got to play around it. I got to respect it for the rest of the match. Here we pick up Starlight Road, which is okay, but it's not great. Because again, like, we just can't deal with the power tool that's in play. We can shut off Mark of the Rose, but that's not going to stop this power tool from just, like, shoving. So, yeah, we pitch Commandant to try and turn on our Rite of Spirit. We activate Necro Valley, we set 4, and then we pass. We go ahead and Dust Shoot, revealing his hand. He's got Mark of the Rose, DDR, Plague, and Book of Life. So, some decent cards here, but Book of Life not going to do anything with Necro Valley in play, thankfully. He's going to resolve Power Tool yet again. Grab another Equip from his deck, this time DDR, and then just attacks for 23, and there's nothing we can do about it. We just don't have a Battle Trap. Anyway, he picks up Mind Control. Disgusting card. Should be banned in every format. I hate that card. And I was like, Jesus Christ. He's drawing like 5 cards off this power tool. And this is why it's so good. It's just like if they don't have an out, and you have to have an out, you just lose to it. We finally find an out, but it's just too little too late. He is able to Mind Control our guard, make Bryonic, and make full use out of all of these +1s. He can just Bryonic bounce my whole board and kill me. Which is exactly what he does, more or less. So yeah, makes Bryonic, bounces the stuff. But yeah, Power Tool Dragon, very broken card. Very, very, very broken card. Very powerful. Anyway, we pass. We go to game 2, where we get to go first. Oh, I'm showing both hands. Shit, my bad. All right, well, we're going to need to show it anyway, because we got Dust Shoot. So, yeah, we draw Assailant, which is nice. Again, we have that Assailant Necro Valley last play. Very strong last play. And then we got that Mystic Tomato opener play. So we're going to go for the Mystic Tomato first. Set the Dust Shoot, set the Compulsory, and pass the turn. Here we Dust Shoot. We get to see his hand. He's got Royal Decree. Now, that's a really good card against us. We got like at least 10 trap cards post-board. He's also got Tragodia, which is another really good card against us. Now, he was really willing to attack it into Mirror Force in the last game, but if we find Mirror Force, which is one of our few outs to Tragodia, he has Royal Decree for it. So we got to take the Tragodia here. Mizuki's not really doing too much. Plague's not doing too much. And I think he's going to be forced to banish his Goblin Zombie to the alert anyway. So we just take Tragodia. It's the best card in this hand by far. So we take Tragodia. He goes ahead and allures. We know the hand. I don't want to show the information yet. He lures. He banishes Goblin Zombie. He finds Heavy Storm and he plays it. Now this is a really interesting Heavy Storm for me because Heavy Storm is like how he wins the game. And he's not really under a lot of pressure right now. So I don't think he should Heavy Storm here. I think he should just save it. Like there's just really no reason to do this. He ends up going for knock afterwards and then just Mizuki attack. But like, I think this is just a waste of a Heavy Storm. I think what you do is you just summon Mizuki. I let it happen. Then you knock. Then you attack directly. And I think that that's fine. Any back row that you can trade with this Mizuki, you're pretty happy about. Heavy Storm is going to be good against my deck no matter what throughout the entire match. It's always going to hit Necro Valley on a key turn. It's always going to hit multiple back row. I'm playing a back row heavy deck with Floodgates, so I think saving Heavy Storm as long as you can. Our previous opponent didn't do it very well. And yeah, we see it here from Macro, getting a little too aggressive on knocking our dude. Or not knocking, Heavy Storming to knock our dude. But yeah, I think he thought that maybe if it was a way to protect like a set Gravekeeper Spy, it could have been bad for him. But I think you just have to take that risk, low-key. Anyway, sets back row, passes the turn. Here we have Necro Valley, which we can play free of worry because Heavy Storm is now gone. If he had Typhoon, he would have played that instead last turn. So I know he doesn't have Typhoon either. We can just Assailant attack over the Mizuki for 300. And then we also do know his hand is Decree Plague left over. So we know it's not Typhoon because we just have perfect information from Broken Dust Shoot. So there's that. Anyway, we set our bottomless and we pass the turn. Now this bottomless is going to get stopped by Decree, so we have to be careful of that. If he finds Caius at any point, he can set his Plague. The Plague can die, and then he can Caius target our Necro Valley with Decree backup, and then run over our Assailant. But we'll have DD Warrior Lady to trade with that, but it'll be a weird situation where whoever ends up top decking better can win that. Anyway, he goes ahead and sets a back row and passes a turn. We pick up Gravekeeper's Guard. We attack for 2,000. We set, I believe, the guard in case he finds like Mystic Tomato or something. I just want to be able to flip guard, bounce his dude. And then also if we top deck Stell and we play into like a Torrential or a Mirror Force, I'd much rather play my 2 Gravekeepers into that spell or trap card than play my DD Warrior Lady into that trap card. Anyway, here comes Set Monster Pass. We have Solemn Judgment off the top. Now we flip the guard, bounce his monster, attack for 3,500, set Solemn Judgment and pass. He has to end phase Decree here. he has to end phase decree here, because if my other back row is another trap card, or if it's, let's say, Solemn Judgment specifically, or Dark Bribe or whatever to prevent this Royal Decree, all of a sudden your Royal Decree is now not even trading 1 for 1. Or it is trading 1 for 1, but you're not stopping the trap card that you need to stop. So he had to end phase decree there, and he didn't do it, which ends up mattering quite a bit. Goblin Zombie attacks the Gravekeeper's Guard. He Typhoons Necro Valley, and we're able to Solemn the Typhoon. And that's just tough, because like now he loses his guy in play, and he's just dead on board. And that's going to be game 2. So yeah, I think not saving the Heavy Storm is interesting. I think the way he sequenced with the Royal Decree was a little interesting. Got a little too tricky there, especially because like if I have like Mirror Force plus Deep Prison, or like Deep Prison plus Compulse, or even just Book of Moon there, that attack and Typhoon is a little, it's not silly, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, more or less. Anyway, we're going into the next game. Game 3. Our opener, again, fantastic. Spy can find us whatever we need. We can get back to Spy plus whatever it gets with Stell. We've got Mystic Tomato to open up the game. We got Brain Control in case we ever find Gale or Caius. We can find Gale off Mystic Tomato. So, decent opening for us. We are going second, though. He sets a couple cards, passes a turn. We do pick up Typhoon, which is nice. I'm just going to attack the monster. We don't need to play Typhoon just yet. He has a lot of equip spells that we can hit with the Typhoon. He also has Royal Decree, which is good to hold the Typhoon for. So I think I'm going to save the Typhoon for a later time. And if the Mystic Tomato trades with the back row here, okay, that's just how it's going to go down. I'm going to attack the set monster because if it is Goblin Zombie or Plague, it's good that we attacked it. And if it's another Mystic Tomato, then that's okay. You know, maybe he goes into a tuner and we can Brain Control it and Synchro. Potentially. There's a chance that happens. Who knows? Anyway, we just pass the turn. He has his own Brain Control. Unfortunate for us, we don't get Mark of the Road. We didn't set the Typhoon, basically, because, again, we don't want to play it into something like a Dust Tornado or a Space Typhoon early, or a Heavy Storm early, when we need it for Royal Decree later on, or the equip spells later on. And so I also didn't set it because he doesn't have a plant in his graveyard for Mark of the Rose yet. So he's able to take this with Brain Control, summon Gale, attack with both. I like the sequencing. It's good sequencing. Plays around Gores. And then makes Power Tool. And Power Tool is really gross. We would lose to this Power Tool, but I'm a sacker. I'm a dirty, dirty sacker, and I top deck Caius, which is so nice. And we are rewarded for saving the Space Typhoon here as well. We switch the Power Tool to attack directly for 2,300, and then sacrifice for Caius. Able to banish a Dust Tornado. Very, very nice. Very, very nice ability to banish this Dust Tornado. And that means our Space Typhoon and our Necro Valley are just that much more likely to stick around. Here I set the Space Typhoon in case he has something like, whatever, Mark of the Rose. If he has a way to set up Mark of the Rose, it could get bad for us. Plus, I also want to bait back row removal now that this Dust Tornado is gone, so that our Necro Valley Spy can stick around later on. Anyway, he sets, we end phase Space Typhoon, because now I just want to press my advantage. We find Assailant. I attack the set monster. It ends up being Mizuki. Main phase 2, I activate Necro Valley, set Spy. Now he needs Heavy Storm or Typhoon to play through this Necro Valley. If not, it's going to be pretty difficult. Mizuki's not doing anything. Book of Life's not doing anything. Mark of the Rose is not doing anything. A lot of his cards are just kind of shut off here. Sets a back row, passes. We flip the Spy because like if it's Torrential, whatever, we have Stell. So we go ahead and grab Descendant. We attack with everything because again, if it's Mirror Force, whatever, we have Stell. I don't need to sack my dude, main one. And he just concedes because he drew a couple of bricks and a Mark of the Rose against Necro Valley. I said I got lucky. I top deck Caius. I did get very lucky there. If I didn't top deck the Caius, that Power Tool would have just like wrecked me. It would have cooked me. But I did get lucky. And like I said, this one Caius, it's always good when you draw it. It's always good. Solid card in this deck. I really like this deck. I think it's fun. I think it's a really cool deck. I would probably take it to a tournament. I think it has a lot of potential. The one thing, like I said at the beginning of the video, that I would want to change is the Necro Valley. I want to get the third copy in the sideboard. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but there are some matchups where it's just like Necro Valley is so good. I think you can play the deck in a way where it's just like you don't need to play Necro Valley till the end of the game anyway, and so you can play it after you've exhausted a lot of resources. But in post-board situations, when your opponent has a lot of Raikos, Dust Tornadoes, that kind of thing, Decrees, etc., it's good to have more copies of Necro Valley, I feel. And then potentially maybe even siding Royal Tribute for Fairies, but I haven't tested against that matchup yet. And that's really the only matchup where I think Royal Tribute crushes, Fairies, Christia Sworn, that kind of thing. Light Sworn is a good matchup for Royal Tribute. So, yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of this list. If you guys have tried it, let me know your opinions on it in the comments below. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of success with it, but maybe you've had a different experience. I'll talk to you guys later in the next video. Make sure and subscribe. Peace.